More than 10 years ago, I crossed paths with William Knowles at the Beijing Film Academy in China. And at that time, Hollywood and Chinese co productions were all the industry was talking about. And Matt was standing right at the center of it. He spoke fluent Mandarin. He was the first non Asian graduate in the school's history. And he even starred in China's first $100 million film. But here's the kicker: the film came out in theaters, and then it disappeared almost immediately. This conversation is not just about what happened, but how we continue to grow and understand who we are during the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in a creative career. This is my conversation with William Knowles. Here we go. All right, this is the Story Series, the podcast for writers who break the rules. William Knowles, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You are a dramatic actor whose career spans American and Chinese cinema. You trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London and the Beijing Film Academy in China, which is where we met, where you became the first non-Asian graduate in the school's history. So once again, welcome, man.
Thank you. That's a nice introduction.
The last time we saw each other might have been some American Chinese cinema event in LA, but before then we crossed paths at the BFA, the Beijing Film Academy.
Right.
So I was there 2013 to 2015. And you obviously, we'll get into it. Your time in China is a lot longer than that, but we crossed paths when you came there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, man. I mean, there's not a lot of people who were there during that time. And it was a really amazing time in China, right? It was like the golden years.
Yes. For everyone was thinking that U.S.-China co-productions was going to be the new standard, right? It was like how everyone in L.A. was like, how do we get Chinese money?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned this. You were the face of that for a while.
A little bit, I think, because of the film I did there, it kind of put me out in the American worldwide space.
Yes.
And it kind of set me up as, this American is over there doing this work, and hey, we can communicate with him.
Yeah. So I want to get into that and use a recent Substack article that you wrote, which was kind of what reintroduced me to you. And I thought, oh, you're here in LA for a bit, and that's what kind of was the impetus for me reaching out to you. So the title of the Substack article that you wrote, "The Dancing Monkey: What Happened When My Chinese Blockbuster Disappeared." It's at a point in your career where it's kind of smack in the middle of your career in China, and you were among the first to star in China's first $100 million film.
Yeah.
And what was the name of that? Asura?
It's called Asura.
And then as the title suggests, it was pulled from theaters after its release days later.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to start with? I mean, that obviously is a huge moment for you professionally, personally, but why did you decide to start there?
I kind of wanted to cut myself off at the knees. That time for me was an incredible time, right? When Asura was being filmed, I got cast in it, and then they used me as kind of the promotional material for the film overseas. It completely changed everything for me. The way people looked at me, and it kind of set me up as this semi-face of U.S.-China co-productions. But what people didn't see and didn't understand was how chaotic all that stuff was, and how you put it in a simple little sentence, it sounds incredible, but not everything is what it seems, especially when it comes to media. That was the first experience for me, and kind of a little bit of a limelight. And when it comes to media and the spin that they put on stuff, once you start getting into that, you are completely powerless to what happens. It just kind of, what people want to hear kind of takes over. So they would focus on one aspect of the story, and then that's all that people would know. And it was just the highlight reel. And so the reason I wrote this article is I wanted to start to open up and tell people that the story runs much deeper. It's much more complicated, and it's, it's like almost like I've been wanting to tell this story for the last 10 years. I just can't figure out a way to do it. Um, and I finally, what clicked in my head was I've been toying around with this little phrase, a foreign dancing monkey, for years in China, because that's how I felt when I first came into fame, before Asura.
Right.
I kind of consider myself like one of the first real foreign dancing monkeys in China. And there were other people, but my story of going to Chengdu and then getting discovered singing karaoke and signed to this agency and then pulled on to TV and live events. And it was an incredible ride for me. In hindsight, I realized, oh, I'm just this foreign monkey, right? I'm just dancing around on stage. They're saying, sing this song. Okay, how loud? Dance, like I'm literally a monkey.
Mm.
And I left that, I thought, after 2 years to become more serious and focus on acting. When I was in Chengdu, they signed me as an all-round talent, which is a singer, host, model, and actor. And after 2 years of that, the only thing I liked was the acting. And I was like, this is something that I can really focus on. I can spend my whole life refining.
Mm.
And I think for me, it was like, I can be passionate about this.
Yes.
So I spent the next few years being serious about acting, right? Only to find myself years later starring in the first $100 million fantasy film, becoming the face of everything, kind of achieving everything that I wanted, and then realizing I'm still a foreign dancing monkey.
Mm.
I never changed.
Just at a higher level.
Maybe a higher level, higher paid foreign dancing monkey.
Did you start to feel like, wait a minute, I'm still not quite getting what I want from acting and performing?
I think it has a lot to do with perception. I'm someone who cares a little bit too much about what people think about me.
Mm.
And for me, I wanted to be perceived in a way that I wasn't the foreign dancing monkey. But what I realized that no matter what I did, I would still be considered that and treated like that, even on the highest level in China. And I think it's 100% an issue with myself when I get down to it. So going back to why I wrote that article, I'm not trying to teach anyone anything. I'm not trying to make any statement. I'm actually just trying to figure out myself.
Mm.
It's a very selfish journey.
Mm.
I just want to know why I made these decisions that I did. I had an incredible, epic journey, but why did I do that? And it seems odd compared to a lot of people I meet in life.
As writers, we have to deal with writer's block, but we shouldn't have to deal with wardrobe block. You know what I'm talking about, right? You open your closet, you don't know what to wear, you're faced with choice paralysis. Well, consider it solved. We now have the Broken Pencil t-shirts and sweatshirts available. I love how they came out. I'm rocking the t-shirt right here. But in all seriousness, if you want to support the podcast, picking one up is a great way to do it. Click the link in the show notes, storyseriespodcast.com. Thank you. Back to the episode. Yeah, you have a very singular journey, I would say. And that's what I was kind of getting at with asking why you wrote the article when you did, which is roughly almost a decade later, right? It was 2017, 2018 when Asura came out?
It came out, yeah. It came out 2018.
2018. So almost a decade. So
about
7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And it in terms of how you are viewing yourself, it seemed like writing the essay was an act of just self-reflection. And maybe with time and some of the mental dust having settled, or that you just have a different perspective on it. And it was like, you know what, I want to put pen to paper and just write about this.
Yeah.
Just to understand it better as a more mature person. You think that was part of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you were ready to write about it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been ready to write about it for a long time. I think I was ready. There's something about just taking it and putting it out there so that other people read it. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different than just writing in my journal or my own kind of hidden files, right?
Yeah.
Putting it out there is kind of, for me, I've always found freedom in that. And freedom in when I'm in my own head, which I am a lot my whole life, I don't really get very far. I go around in circles a lot. A lot of times when there's a question I have to ask someone before I know the answer. They don't even need to respond to me most of the time, but I need to ask that question out loud to someone else before I can know it myself.
Why did you enroll in RADA leading up to this big release?
There's a lot of things that I did in my life going up to that point where I would kind of sit back and wait until someone would point at me and tell me, you should do this. And then I'd finally have the confidence in myself, like, yeah, that's what I've secretly wanted to do, but I didn't have the confidence to do it. And I've noticed that that was a turning point for me. Um, when like people were telling me, your life has changed. You're starring in this $100 million film. China US co-productions are rising, all the money's coming from China. You speak Chinese, know intimately the industry there from the inside out. Your life has changed now.
It's like perfect timing, right?
Perfect everything. And I was like, I remember when I was filming Asura, um, it was an amazing experience, love, hate, but a lot of amazing things. Um, but I remember, we would spend several days sometimes just like filming, like, okay, turn like this, and it was, or say one little line, right? And I was like, man, I just really want to dive deeper into this, like this acting thing. Like, I don't want to just be a dancing monkey. I want to like be like a craftsman, creator, and like add value to this other than just how I look and stand.
Mm.
And I knew that I had just kind of fallen into acting. I fell into getting signed in Chengdu and then getting this scholarship to study acting at Beijing Film Academy, where I only studied for 1 year. And even in that year, I started working. So I felt completely unequipped to, I didn't feel like I was a good actor,
Mm.
right? And I remember a friend of mine, another actor named Archie Cow. I always say it wrong. He calls himself Archie Ko. But so another friend of mine, Archie Ko, told me, we were having dinner while I was filming Ashura, and he said, there's a really good friend of mine who's super famous, you know, A-lister, but he doesn't feel like he's a good actor, and he feels like that was his one regret, is that he didn't work on his craft more. Like, he has everything, but he doesn't feel like he's quite there as an actor. And that really hit me. And I was like, that's not what I want. That's not what I want with my life. I don't want everything in life, but still not feel like I'm where I want to be, internally. Um, and I would give all of that stuff up to have like kind of the internal confidence and peace and
Mm.
like fulfilling the passion of what I want. So I just knew while I was filming Ashura, I was like, I've already studied in China, and I've done a bunch of classes in LA. I studied 2 years of Meisner, the Baron Brown studio, which is amazing. And so I was like, I've studied in the US, I've studied in China. I really respect British actors. I think I should study in London. Um, and I was so ignorant. I didn't know anything about schools or drama schools. I didn't grow up wanting to be an actor, even thinking it was possible. So I I just asked a friend of mine who was from London, where should I apply to school? And he said, we should probably apply to RADA. It's the best school. I was like, okay, what's RADA? Okay, well, sure, I'll do it. And long story short, there's some cool stories in that, but I got accepted to the master's program there. And I had just gotten signed to a big management team here in LA at 3 Arts. And they were putting me up for a lot of big roles, kind of a little bit of the golden ticket feeling. And I told them, I think I'm going to go back to school. And they were like, we don't think that's a good idea. Um, And a couple of my other friends who I really respected, um, uh, a guy named Byron Mann, who was actually one of the reasons I came to LA in the first place. Um, I'd met him at a coffee shop in Beijing when he was working on a project there. He's an actor. Of course, everyone knows him. And he said, "What are you doing here? This tall white guy. You're American. Everyone wants to be in LA, but no one can get a visa. And you're an American working in Beijing. You have to go to LA." And I was like, "Well, I've never been to LA. I don't know anyone there." And he goes, "Don't worry about it. I will introduce you to everyone I know." So he was very influential in getting me to move to LA first. But long story short, at that point, when I wanted to go back to RADA, he sat me down and he said, "This is not a good decision. You should keep going with the momentum in your career. Um, there's lots of people that have graduated from amazing drama schools, but they don't have an opportunity. An opportunity like this doesn't come all the time. It might only come once." And I said, "Thank you for your advice, but I need to go
Mhm.
for me." And at the time, it made complete sense to me because I'm like, I have great momentum now, but my film is not even coming out until 2018. So I can go to drama school, and about the time I'm graduating, my film will come out. Then I'll have more momentum, and I'll feel like then I'll be trained as an actor.
You'll have studied the craft.
Yeah, and I think that's a better plan to me than just moving forward right now with this momentum and not feeling good about me and my craft.
Mm.
So that was a big moment for me because it's a scary moment. And but I chose to go back to school, to give up that momentum and to focus my craft on my craft for the next
Mm. It,
about 2 years.
how are you seen over there? You write about some of the students are going, what? You have what kind of momentum? And we're trying to get what you have. But again, it's people looking, seeing the outside of you.
Yeah, I felt very out of place there. First of all, just as an actor, I didn't even know what RADA was. I didn't even know, like, everyone else there, it seemed they had been dreaming their entire lives of going to RADA. It was like this thing. And I was like, well, some guy just told me to apply. Like, I was like a blank slate. And to me, it was like, well, I'm an American. I'm an ignorant American. These guys are like, they know so much more than me. And I'm just going to try to soak up as much as I can. But at the same time, I already had a career. I was working in film and TV and stage um and I don't think, like, it was very hard for me to relate with some of my classmates, or for, like, when I would share to them where I was, I don't think they could even really compute it
Right.
because they're like, "Well, why are you here?"
An
You know?
American coming from China who's fluent in the language with legitimate work experience in films, and now you're here in London. It's like they're just probably trying to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, and I remember they had an agent from um, ITG International,
Oh yeah.
or what, I forget what ITG stands for, but yeah, Independent Talent Group. Yes, they're also the top place in London. So there was an agent from ITG who came and spoke to us at RADA, and I went up and spoke to her afterwards, and I was like, "Thanks for speaking. My agent is also at ITG. My managers got me an agent at ITG." And she was like, "Well, I didn't even know. Uh, but one of my other classmates heard, they were like, "What? You are at ITG? Why are you still in school? Like, if I was at ITG, I'd quit and go work." And I was just like, "Well, I want to learn." Like, I've already had that, I've tasted it, and it didn't fulfill me. And I think this is going to,
Yeah.
you know?
I really love what you're saying, and I appreciate you saying that, because there's this battle between how you feel and how others are projecting their own feelings onto you. It's
Yeah.
like, well, you have this, why are you doing this? And inside you're like, there's this tug of war of like, well, you can't see inside me, and we all feel like in some ways we're not enough in certain respects, and you just
Yeah.
have to sometimes go your own path alone if you feel like you need to. And I remember, like, so when I was there in at the Beijing Film Academy from 2013 to 2015, I remember when I was deciding to, and I, like you, I love my time in China, and we still go back sometimes, and uh people, I was like, okay, I think now I'm ready to go back to LA, make this part of my story, go back to LA, try to get into screenwriting and figure out, work my way up. And people were like, oh, they were offering to send me to Shanghai and another scholarship over here, and which was all great. But I remember thinking, like, I need to make sure, and obviously my family miss me, and my folks are biased, want me to come back, right? Like, and worry they're gonna lose me out there for life. But I thought, if I have to make sure that leaving China is my decision, and if it's not, if it's anyone else, if I'm like, well, I feel guilty, I should go back, I'm gonna resent that person or maybe myself
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. And so I'm just made, it was like a silent decision. I know when I'm not done with China, but done with this chapter, and I'm gonna go back to LA. But it had to be my decision. And so I'm just hearing some of that in you, where it's like, you can't expect everybody to understand what you're doing or why all the time. Sometimes you just have to push forward. Is that kind of what that Rod experience was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't know why. A lot of that's what I mean. A lot of my writing is me exploring why I made these decisions I did. I knew a reason, but I don't know if it was the core reason. I don't.
Mm.
So I've had a lot of fun exploring that recently.
Ah.
And kind of just diving deep into my own psyche and like, why do I make these decisions?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Why did I thought it was that, but maybe it's this. And
Yeah. And back on that timeline, when leading up to the film's release, you're still at RADA, but you fly back to Beijing, but you start to get inklings that there's some issues with this film, right?
I remember when we were filming Asura, it was tough. There was a lot of stress, a lot of difficulties. One of the guys who was filming there from London, he said, "Hey, a lot of the films I've done, um, his name is Damian Walters, and he was our stunt coordinator. He said, a lot of the films I've done, in my experience, the worse the experience of filming the movie, the better the film turns out. So we might have a good one coming on this one, guys." Yeah, because it was tough. It was tough.
And
There's a lot.
where in China did you, or was it even in China?
The film?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in China, all in China, but it was all over China.
Oh, it
So
was.
we had like 7 different studios in Beijing, around there in Hebei,
Okay.
and then filmed on location in the Himalayas for a couple of months and Qinghai province. And then they built a whole village, like the Hobbit town village kind of thing in Ningxia. So
And how long was the shoot?
the shoot, the principal photography was 180 days, and we went a little bit over. Yeah, but we trained. They brought in all the actors to train for like wire work and fighting, everything for, it was supposed to be like a month and a half, and then it turned into 3 months. The stunt guys had been there training for like 6 months before the movie started. And of course, the director and the whole production team had been working on it for like 3 or 4 years before it came to fruition.
Getting closer to the film's release,
Mhm.
there was a cancellation at the Cannes Film Festival, something like that, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, wait a minute now. This is like, there's issues, and then there's like, this is not a good sign.
That was a really epic experience for me because I decided to go to Cannes because Ashura was going to do a premiere there, right? And a week before the Cannes started, they canceled. They said there's problems with people's schedules. They can't come.
Who's they? The
So-
Chinese side or the?
The Chinese side,
Okay.
our producers, they said, a couple of our stars can't come, so we're just canceling. And it's going to cost like, I forget, $2 million to $5 million to have to do it. So we're just like, we're going to cancel it. But I was in London, and it was like a 2-hour flight over there, 50 pounds. And I was like, well, I was already planning on doing it. I was like, I'm going to go anyway. So I bought my own ticket. I flew myself there, used hotel points to book a hotel just for one night. and got there, and Asura is on the cover of the Hollywood Reporter magazine and the Variety magazine there. So I get copies and like carry it under my arm, and I'm just like walking around Cannes, don't know anybody, don't know what I'm doing, uh, and and people would, I'd talk to them, they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm an actor." They're like, "You're in a film?" I was like, "Well, my film's not here anymore, but
Here it is.
here, this is the film." And they're like, "Whoa, you're on the cover." I was like, "Yeah,"
Wow.
and I just started meeting people through
Just
that.
networking.
Yeah.
Wow. And so
Mm.
why would, as best as you could tell, the stars not go if it's this first $100 million Chinese film? Like it's the biggest film at that time. Why would they not go?
Well, I mean, the excuse they said was that people were filming other projects. I think, um, so they just didn't think it was worth it. But I'm sure it had to do with money.
Mm,
And I'm sure there were a lot of other factors. There was a lot of stuff that they said they were going to do with the film that didn't happen.
yeah.
So it's a miracle that the film was even finished. We actually, they weren't getting paid halfway through the film, and everyone went on strike. So we shut down the film. They sent everyone home, and then 2 weeks later, they brought everyone in again and continued filming. So there were signs,
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think that was it something like it was a problematic film that they wanted to at some point just bury and move on? Is that what it seemed like?
No,
No.
no, it wasn't that. It wasn't like, hey, this film is complicated. I don't know,
Right.
but when I was filming it, I heard different things. Um, like there's two brothers who were the investors of it, and I heard things like, well, one of them wants the movie to succeed and the other doesn't. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Like what? Why would he not want it to succeed?
Mm.
And then um, there was a lot of like hate on the film way before it ever came out.
You wrote about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
The way that our producers talked about the film, they always talked about it like this is China's first $100 million fantasy film. We're doing the best VFX ever, like better than Marvel. Um, we are making a Hollywood level film, and basically saying all the other films in China are on a lower level than us. Like you can't even
Mm.
compare you to us. We're so much better.
Being
And
set
so
up to hate.
yeah, so everybody in the industry, I go to these dinners, and even my friends, they would just be hating on Ashura, and then they'd be like, "Oh, sorry, Matthew, I know you're in that, but that just pisses me off." Like, and there's this, Chinese people are very prideful, like everyone. We're all prideful, but they're very prideful about being Chinese and their own culture and their country, and like every country. But I think a lot of people in the industry there, they want to forge their own path. They don't want to be compared to another country. And like, no, we're not trying to copy them. We're doing our own thing. So there's also this thing in China. I forget the Chinese phrase, but it's basically if you stick your head up above the crowd, they chop off your head.
Like the tall poppy syndrome or something.
Yeah. So don't ever like do anything where you're trying to rise above other people. Just kind of like go with everyone, right? And I think absolutely the way that our producers talked about the film kind of made them a target to everyone. So the whole industry in China wanted it to fail before it came out, just for pride reasons.
Mm.
Um, and then it did.
And then it did.
Yeah.
And then 3 days later, it gets pulled. About 3 days from
Yeah.
theaters.
It really happened before that. The first night, so like midnight screenings, right? At 3 a.m., there were, the Hollywood Reporter did an article about it. There were like 10,000 fake reviews that happened all at once. And like one of the platforms had the film rated at like a 7.5 or 9 or something. And then the other one got all zeros. And so it was like rated 3.1. And so there was this, it was pretty obvious that that aspect at least was an attack on the film and kind of like review bombing, which at that time was very, very powerful in China. So that happened, and immediately after that, the next morning, our producers said, "Hey, our film is um, like under attack. We're not going to get the kind of screen time we need. Uh, we're going to pull it out of cinemas now, and then figure out a plan in the future." And so it took about 3 days for it to get out of all the cinemas. And I think it made like $7 or $8 million, but it was. But yeah, as they were trying to, rip it off the shelves and
Right.
not let anyone see it.
And I wanted two things, but was there anything after that when like any plan for the future? Did anything happen with it?
Well, no. I mean, I'm sure they have plans. To be honest, I just don't know
Yeah.
what's going on with it. I have my theories, and they're varied. But what I know is that I tried to help the film get at least, like get picked up at Netflix. I tried to set up some screenings with Sony and all. Like I did my own part to kind of basically become a co-producer on the film and get it released, at least outside of China.
Okay, yeah.
And for whatever reason, every time it felt like self-sabotage. Like, yes, we want to do this, but then it wouldn't happen. And I'm like, something doesn't make sense. Why would you not, want this?
Yeah.
Why would you not let this happen? I set it all up. And so I tried multiple times over the years, probably 3 or 4 times where I really spent several months trying to, okay, let's try again. And it finally got beat into my head that for whatever reason, this is not going to happen. I don't understand why, but it's not going to happen.
It reminds me, I don't know if this is it, but like what was going on recently with Warner Brothers and like certain films are a giant tax write-off or something, like Supergirl, or I think it's Supergirl. There was, or Batgirl, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why not leave it in theaters and have it make some amount of money?
Well, I've heard different
Yeah.
things. They're very varied. One of the theories is that if your film, the way they did the contracts is the investors and the people they borrowed money from can't come to claim their money until the film is released. And if the film's never released, then the contracts never move forward. So they can't come chasing them for the money. I've heard, I've told a couple lawyers that, and they're like, no, that's BS, whatever, but so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of my theories.
AJ, have you seen the finished film?
Oh yeah.
You have?
Many times, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just somewhere right now.
They have it on a drive in Beijing.
Yeah.
When I was setting up a screening here for Netflix, they were going to fly the DCP to San Francisco and then have someone drive it down, sit there with it, show them, and then drive it back, right? They would not let it go digital at all.
Yeah.
They're so protective of it.
Yeah.
But I've set up a couple screenings for people in Beijing, which they will do.
Huh.
So it's like it's not that they don't want it to come up, but they won't let it. I don't know what's going on.
It's a weird limbo state.
Maybe an internal fight. I don't know.
And up until then, would you say that was probably the lowest, toughest moment for you professionally?
Yeah, it was long coming because it wasn't like, oh, the film's gone and my life's over. It was like, well, they're going to release it. But, when they said
strung along.
Yeah, they said, we're going to release it next year. Right. And then the next year, they're like, okay, next year. Right. And then like, okay, definitely next year. Right. So it was more like this long term, like, is this ever going to happen? And then still now I could still be on that bandwagon and say it's going to be released again at some point. But I just, for my own sanity, just said, it's not going to happen.
You have to move on.
Yeah. I personally, sometimes you have to do that.
And aside, obviously very tough, is there, looking back on it, now that you've written this article, is there anything that you glean from it that's positive?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many amazing things.
Yeah.
I made so many great friends. we had a lot of fun filming this project. It was the most epic adventure of my life on a film set. I have so many cool stories. Those are all the stories that I told for those first, all those interviews for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So they're not in that article. It was kind of showing the other side. But man,
Right.
there were so many epic things. Like when we were filming in Shanghai, I just remember to get to set, we had to take like an hour and a half, 2 hour bus ride, walk down to a lake, get on this boat, take a boat for an hour across, walk through the mud for 15 minutes to a bus, ride the bus another 20 minutes to set. And when I got to set the first day, we're literally in the middle of the Himalayas. There's like mountains on both sides of us, this valley, and there's like I forget, like 3,000 people there. There's a wire setup between the tops of the two mountains, like 200 meters in the air. And I see 15 people flying back and forth at the same time, fighting in the air, right? They strap the horse up, the horse flies up, and it's like insane what's happening. And then that's just in the air. Underneath is this battle in the valley with like hundreds of some of the top stunt guys in the world fighting and flipping and tricking, parkour everywhere, and the cameras going through that. It was incredible. They filmed everything like real. They didn't want to do like, VFX when they could actually film something for real. So
Man.
it was the most epic setup ever.
And this comes almost by accident, being discovered in a karaoke bar, going to China on a whim for humanitarian reasons after you thinking you're going to play professional football.
Yeah.
You get an injury and then your life takes a turn, and then suddenly here you are and you're starring in this first $100 million Chinese film. Like, what do you make of that?
I'm still trying to figure it out. Still trying to digest it. But I've been telling my story a lot, and it's almost like too much for people to understand, because it's like, wait, you did this, and then like each one of my like parts of my story is like a lifetime in itself.
Yeah.
And then the change is so abrupt and so crazy that it's like, wait, you're gonna go to the NFL. NFL dreams, played at Clemson. Like, not only that, but walked on after never playing football in your life, right? And then to this D1 program, and then getting like most improved defensive walk on. They're telling you getting a scholarship. Like, it looks, and your friend who got you to walk on is like, it doesn't even matter if you ever step on the field, you have the perfect body shape for NFL. Anyway, then getting knee injury, boom, that's over. Okay, what do I do? Well, I'm going to go do humanitarian work, kind of like my first love growing up, helping other people. And then going and doing that for 2 years. And then through a weird series of events, I get stuck in Singapore coming back. I don't know if you even know this part of the story, but I fly. So I've been in Guizhou volunteering humanitarian work for 2 years, right? And then I decided, okay, I want to earn my own money. I want to move on with my life, but I think I need to learn Chinese well, like better than I already have. So I'm going to enroll in university in Chengdu, and I'm going to move to Chengdu and study for a year. And then I'm going to do international business or something like that. Okay, so I fly through Singapore. We might not have time for all this, but I fly through Singapore, and just on a connecting flight to visit a college buddy of mine who's working at Bank of America there. And there's so much, man. There's so much. So I'm in Singapore. Long story short, I get all my stuff stolen in Singapore. I get stuck there for 3 months. I end up couch surfing. And I stay on this red race car bed in this like ambassador's house and on the home leave. And then I meet someone who the next day invites me to have tea with the president of Singapore. And I go with her and her other friend who just moved there, who's named Ed Saverin, who's the co-founder of Facebook.
Oh, Eduardo Saverin?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now the richest guy in Singapore. We go have tea with the president. We get, gifted tickets to see the F1 race. and we go to the F1 race the next week, and then I like start partying for my first time in my life in Singapore. And yet I don't have any money, and I'm around like all these like richest people in the world. And then, people were like, you should be a model. And I was like, can I make a little bit of money doing this? And like, yeah, I'll introduce you to my agent. And I do that. I'm a terrible model, but then I get like, because I had long hair and a beard, they're like, you look like a Viking. They're filming this Hollywood Malaysian co-production film in Malaysia. You should be in this movie. And I did a little role in a movie. Then I got my stuff back from, in Singapore, got new identification. 3 months had gone by. I moved to Chengdu, right? 6 months into Chengdu, no friends, nothing, just studying Chinese. Then someone invites me to karaoke. I go, I sing a Chinese song. Then the way I describe it is the Ryan Seacrest of Western China walked up to me and looked at me. He's like, if I close my eyes, you sound like a Chinese person. I open them, you're this tall white guy. You got to come on my TV show and sing. At that time in China, it was like so rare that a random foreign person would speak Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
Sing, and like, so that's when I get
What
signed.
year was this?
So that was in 2011.
Okay. Yep.
2011.
2011.
Yeah. So I went to Guizhou to volunteer 2009,
Yeah.
9, 10, and then 11, 12 in Chengdu.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Beijing, 13,
And that's where,
14-ish.
when I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned was kind of a lack of confidence or
Yeah.
not feeling confident enough.
Yeah.
But you're doing all these incredibly hard things. When I told someone one time that I went out to study in China, and they said that was very brave. And this is like recently, so it was years after China. And I thought, man, it never occurred to me. It just felt like something I had to do to grow, to separate myself, for reasons I don't know, plus all these other things. But brave, it never occurred to me. But that made sense when I thought about it. And yet you were talking about lack of confidence, but at the same time, you were doing all these things. Do you look at what you did as just brave?
I think those two things that you're talking about, they go hand in hand. It's kind of like this dichotomy of from a young age, I wanted to be brave. And I think, because of some of my childhood experiences, it kind of was reinforced in me that I want to be brave. But the desire to be brave is almost like, I don't feel brave. Therefore, I need this thing that's outside of myself. And so a lot of things that maybe we do to be brave is because we don't feel brave, and we like need that.
When I was going to university out here and I was majoring in screenwriting, close to graduating, was thinking, I don't need more screenwriting. I need more life. I'm going to college near where I grew up. I'm driving to my parents' house to, after the college classes, like I'm not out of the house yet. And I thought a master's in humanities would make me a broader person. I'm going to do that. And then a random Saturday, our Chinese film professor sent an email that said China scholarship opportunity. And it said they'll pair you with what you're studying in China. If you're studying film like I was, Beijing Film Academy. And no hesitation, I said, that's what I need. That's the humanities in real life. And it never occurred to me. And when I say brave, I'm talking about just going into the unknown, and it never occurred to me. It was like, no, I need this to grow. And that's how I view it. But what you're saying is so right in that we're doing it because you don't feel like you're trying to, you don't feel like you're not doing it because I feel brave. You're doing it because I need this. And this is going to get me whatever I think I need. And even if it's hard to articulate.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for everybody, but the more I know myself, the more I realize that a lot of the things that I did in life, I did with this kind of desire to, because I wanted other people to tell me that I was brave, or tell me like, I remember we did this epic trip across Tibet with my best friend from college. He was teaching at Lhasa University. He was one of the only people who could live there long term. We went on this trip. We went to Mount Everest, and I was like, I'm going to climb Mount Everest. Until I realized, I read a book called Into Thin Air. about a bunch of people that died on Everest. And reading that, I was like, I don't think I actually want to do Mount Everest. I think the reason I want to climb Mount Everest is so I can tell other people that I climbed Mount Everest. And that was a big thing for me to realize, because I was like, then I don't need this. Like, why would I climb that just to tell other people? If it's not for me, then I'm not going to do it. But I think there's a lot of stuff that I do in my life that I don't realize that at the time, and some things I do, there's mixed things,
Sure.
like doing humanitarian work was something that I really loved doing. But part of that was also, I felt good about it. I felt good about, like helping other people, like, okay, other people are going to see me as a good person. They won't realize how like messed up I am, we're complicated people.
Looking back on that decision to study at RADA, do you think that you needed craft, or was it something else?
It's a good question. I think I needed craft. I know I needed craft.
Yeah.
Maybe there's probably other things too.
Yeah.
I think I could talk about other things, but the craft was definitely needed.
Yeah.
Just for my own self,
Mm.
I needed that. Like I look at it like a tool belt. I think I had one or two tools in my tool belt. If I get a role, okay, how am I going to do this, right?
Yeah.
But after I studied at RADA, I was like, I got 20 tools in my tool belt to do this role. I have so many choices now. It's so much more freeing, and it's a joy,
Yeah. Before we go, I like to end with the same question I ask every guest, which is, Matt, what is a rule in our industry that you believe is worth breaking?
When I first started acting and came to LA, I was doing other things too. I was like, had a restaurant I was involved with, and kind of doing, different things. I was producing all these things. And somebody told me, they were like, if you want to be a serious actor, if you want anyone to take you seriously, you have to only do acting. You can't do all these other things. They're not going to, you're not a real actor. And I believed that person. And so it's not a rule, but it was a kind of a rule that someone told me that's definitely false.
Mm.
And I think you can do so many things at the same time as being an actor.
Yeah.
And this industry, and especially now, almost necessitates it.
Matt, this is such a treat, man, to catch up with you, and we crossed paths over 10 years ago, and just to now,
Crazy.
sit here in the studio and just get a glimpse of your career that could easily go 10, 20 podcasts. But this was a real treat, man. So thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, before you go, thank you for listening. If you want more episodes like this, make sure to hit that follow or subscribe button. And while you're at it, grab my free guide, The Rule Breaker's Guide to Finding Your Creative Voice. It's a brutally honest roadmap I put together, built from the lessons, mistakes, and breakthroughs I've collected along my journey as a writer. You can download it for free at storyseriespodcast.com. See you in the next one.